Hey everyone, it's Anne Manera, and we are back again today for another color along from Color Along Variety Coloring Book, Volume 19. And today's topic is coloring with coffee and tea. So, little prep today because I had to brew myself a cup of coffee. So I have a very strong cup. I used instant coffee because I really wanted it to be very, very dark, and I wanted it to be quick, and I didn't have time for like making a whole pot. But what I did was I brewed it. I think there was like a heaping tablespoon of instant coffee in here, poured some hot water on it, you know, the typical way. And then I let it sit, and then I let it cool. I actually popped it in the refrigerator and let it cool. So right now it's cold, and you can use coffee, you can use tea, and the whole purpose of today's color along is to just kind of get this page so it's prepared for coffee and tea. Now, one of the things that I'm also going to be using is a red colored pencil, and I'm going to use this dry. Now, what's going to happen here is that this is actually a watercolor pencil, and I'm going to use this dry, and I'm going to use it for just kind of like some accent parts of this coloring page. So we've got this red watercolor pencil that I'm using dry. It's Moped. Is it Moped? Yeah, Moped Color Peps. I'm coloring this Santa's jacket, and then we're going to go back with this paintbrush, and we're going to fill in some of the areas of this coloring page with the actual coffee or tea, whatever you're using, as if it's paint. So similar to paint. And what it's going to do is stain the page. Now, you might need a couple of coats, but that's fine. And the other thing that you could do is you could go back over the watercolor pencil, which we're going to do in one of the spots. But I wanted to keep it very simple and just kind of do more of a demonstration today so you can see what happens when you use coffee or tea. Now, of course, you might have to step aside, let your page dry for a little bit before you get moving on to maybe using something else with it. So you might have to, it might be like a 2 or 3 step process. I'm just gonna finish coloring his jacket, his coat. Oh my goodness. Santa wears a coat, right? Not a jacket. His sleeves. And I'm going to leave the inside of his apparel, for lack of a better word, with just white. I'm not gonna touch it. And then of course we have his hat. And I'm using kind of a firm pressure or a heavy pressure with this. And now I'm going to take, and you can use many different things. So you could color the tree green, but let's just jump right in for our main purpose of what we're here for today. I'm just gonna dip my paintbrush right into the coffee. And this is not a mug that I'm gonna use to drink out of, by the way, just in case you were wondering. And I do have a piece of paper behind it, okay? So because it's going to leak through. And I'm just gonna paint it on. And the more coffee or tea that you put on the area of your coloring page, the darker it will be. Of course, you can vary this, maybe by brewing a cup of herbal tea that's maybe like a yellow or a green. Or you can make it really strong or really weak. So there's a lot of variety here. I'm gonna leave some of my areas white. Now, once this is dry for the bag, for instance, I could go back over and I could add another, look at that, if I add another layer or another coat of this paint. Does this have paint on it though? It looked like it had green. It looked like it had green paint on it. Yeah, this is not a mug I'm gonna be drinking out of. I'm gonna have to let this mug stay in my studio, you know. Good old Dollar Tree mug, you know. I could give his face a little bit of a beige and his little nose. And maybe even his pocket, just to kind of make it fancy. Now, let's see what happens if we mix the red with the coffee. Mix a watercolor pencil with the coffee. Let me just give this a little bit of a sharpen here. I'm going to just color this on its side so it's kind of a pink color. for the tree. Now, usually when you mix red and brown, you certainly wouldn't get a green color because green would just have to be, would be yellow and blue. But I'm sure that we would be able to get kind of a earthy looking color for the tree. So I'm going to start at the top. Now I've got this watercolor pencil on there, and I'm using the coffee on top of it. All right, so it is mixing in. You know, we like to experiment when we color with different mediums, using different techniques. Keeps it interesting, don't you think? Of course, I'm smelling the coffee, right? So now I'm gonna give it just a little bit of a coat, a light coat at the bottom where kind of like the land is here, okay? And then I'm going to leave this. I mean, this is kind of a quick little thing. I'm going to leave some of the areas white, and then I'm going to color the stars with this paint color. Paint them in, right? So I've got the sky that is remaining that color, the white, leaving it undone. Now, if you wanted to copy this page onto coloring watercolor paper, or if you have the PDF of this book and you wanted to experiment and get this done on a different type of paper, there's all different types of watercolor paper. And if you have this book and you are and you want to just try it on something else, just make a copy of it. Make a copy of this page, print it out if you can print it out on watercolor paper. Some watercolor paper goes through your printer, some does not. I don't really know why that happens. I guess it depends on the printer. Depends on the printer, depends on the paper. How about that? I don't really think it just totally depends on the printer, because some paper goes through my printer and some does not. Just like, have you ever painted, if you paint, have you ever painted with canvas paper? And it's just like it's basically just the canvas without any type of wood that's it's stretched on. And some canvas paper will actually go through an inkjet printer, so that's kind of fun to do. So I'm just going to give this star a little bit more here. And I'm thinking that this guy is going to have, today Santa is going to have a little bit of a brown beard. He's a young Santa. And I'm just going to leave it like that. So I just wanted to kind of demonstrate what happens with coffee or tea or any other type of something that will stain your coloring page. So whether we use coffee or we use tea, or you could use different types of ink. You know what else you could use too, in this similar method too, is you could use food coloring. That would also stain it. Whatever would stain it. The other thing that you could possibly use is like beet juice, or you could boil down some beets, or say you were making beets and the water is really pink, you could use that. You could take some flowers out from your garden. It's summertime and there's gardens full of gardens that are full. So you could take some garden flowers and you could boil them down, kind of like you're brewing some flowers and getting getting that water to really kind of stain itself. So that's today's color along. I hope this was enjoyable, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.